Warzone 2 is finally here, and today I'm sharing with you the best controller settings. And we're starting with arguably the most important controller setting, and that's the button layout. And you may have noticed in Modern Warfare 2, which shares the same engine as Warzone 2, so they play practically the same in terms of movement, that some movement mechanics that you're used to from Warzone 1 just aren't there anymore. So we're talking slide cancelling in particular, but also bunny hopping isn't as good as it was. But still, hopping around a corner will help you, and drop shotting will as well. So with that in mind, I do recommend bumper jumper tactical as the main button layout. That's if you have a standard controller and you don't play on claw or with paddles on your controller. So this allows us a full range of movement, including jumping and mantling, as well as drop shotting without taking our thumbs off the analogs. And that's really important because it allows us to keep our aim pretty good whilst doing movement mechanics. So with this, the LB or L1 will become jump, and then the right analog clicked in will be your drop shotting. Now, if you don't play on this already and you don't want too much of a change from maybe tactical, which is arguably the most popular right now, or just default, then I would actually recommend playing on tactical, because I think drop shotting is probably the most important mechanic on this game. But that's only if you had to isolate one movement mechanic. Moving on, we do have the option to flip the bumpers and the triggers. And the reason you might want to do this is that you can click the bumpers in slightly quicker than you can click the triggers in, which means you could aim and shoot quicker if you did flip your bumpers and triggers. So it's possible it will give you that tiny edge in the game when it comes to living or dying. Now, I personally don't run this at the moment just because one of my bumpers is kind of inconsistent and doesn't always click in. But if you are looking to maximize your game, I recommend putting it on. Just before we get into the rest of the settings though, I just want to tell you about Private Internet Access, a company that supplies a world-leading VPN that's stacked full of features, including the ability to protect up to 10 devices on the fastest VPN on the planet with up to 10 gigabytes per second speed. You can also have unlimited access to servers in 84 different countries and utilize split tunneling that increases your connection speed even more. On top of all this, they're the most transparent VPN on the market, with completely open source code and a no logs policy, so no data about you is kept. And the great thing about the VPN from Private Internet Access is not only do you have more protection of your privacy and an opening up of access to content from anywhere in the world, it can also help your Warzone and Modern Warfare 2 game as well. As I've mentioned in previous videos, people use VPNs to get easier lobbies by bypassing the skill-based matchmaking. And this is something you can do with Private Internet Access's VPN. If you want to try out the VPN by Private Internet Access, or you just want to learn more about it, head down into the description where you'll find a link. Now let's get back to the settings. As we come down to aiming and we're on our stick sensitivity, I run 6.6, but this is by no means the best sensitivity to run. Actually, the best is subjective to you. Really, you want these as high as you can go before you start missing shots. However, these days you can actually run your stick sensitivity way higher than you would otherwise because of this ADS sensitivity multiplier. So by having it on 0.8, which I recommend most people to run, you can actually aim in on a slower sensitivity than you would look around in on your sticks, which obviously just makes it much easier to aim in and lock onto someone and kill them. So if you normally run 6.6 sensitivity on say 1 ADS multiplier, you could probably run 8.8 on your sticks, but then put this down to 0.8 and you'll still be able to hit your shots, but look around the map much quicker. Then on top of this, we do actually have options for the sensitivity multiplier elsewhere. The rest of them aren't too important, apart from probably third person. And to be honest, I'd match this with what your ordinary ADS sensitivity multiplier is. Then as we're moving through some of the others, these aren't too important and are pretty standard until we get to automatic sprint. You want this on automatic tactical sprint as it allows you the best movement possible. This means that when you move forward on your left analog just a little bit, not clicking it in, you will actually go into a full tactical sprint if you have that available. This is great for when you're getting shot and if you need to just move out the way very quickly into some cover. As well as that, it stops your controller being worn out as quickly as well. Then the next important setting is the interact/reload behavior. You absolutely want this on tap to interact, just as it was on Warzone 1. In a looting game mode like Warzone is, you want to be able to tap to interact with doors and chests and weapons on the ground rather than hold your button. It saves a lot of time and is a lot less annoying. Then for armor plates behavior, I recommend putting it on apply all. This just means that you only have to press and hold once to apply all of your armor, rather than clicking it again and again for each piece. By saving this little bit of time, it actually allows you to focus on the game in intense moments where maybe you're having a gunfight. Then as we moved over to advanced, we absolutely want our target aim assist on. Why not have every little bit of help you can get? Then for the aim assist type, I've currently got it on default, as on Modern Warfare 2, this feels actually too strong if anything. But maybe when I try out some of the other options like precision, focusing, and Black Ops, there will be a change. But at the moment, default seems to be great. And then obviously for ADS aim assist, we want that on as well. The aim response curve type, now this is actually very tricky. If you played Warzone 1, which I'm guessing you did, I'd say stick with whatever you ran on there. This option isn't hugely important. However, I run dynamic just because this is a little bit snappier and helps at the closer ranges. Standard is the default option, and that's great for most people if you've just trained your muscles into playing with that. And then linear is actually probably the best one if you've never played a Call of Duty before and trained your muscle memory to these different settings. Just because your aim directly correlates to your input on your sticks. Next up, we've got ADS sensitivity multiplier for focus. So this is essentially when you're holding your breath is what that means. I've got mine on 0.9, but I do think anywhere between 0.8 and 1 will do. For transition timing, we want this on instant. Then for custom sensitivity per zoom, I've got mine off, but you can absolutely go to 10 with this if you want. But by turning this off, it just reverts back to whatever our ADS sensitivity multiplier setting is. And obviously just a moment ago, we put it down to 0.8. Now as we go down to dead zone, we do have a few different options than last year on Warzone 1. For the minimum dead zones, I always recommend putting these on as low as you can go before you start getting stick drift. So you may put one of these down to 0.00, but when you go into a game and you just leave your controller on the side, your aim might start drifting along the screen. If that does happen, put it up a little bit, go back to the game, try again, and then once it stops drifting across the screen, you've got the perfect dead zone. And the reason you want this as low as you can go is to ensure you get the quickest response from touching the analog to actually moving on the screen. If your dead zone is too high, you essentially have input lag. Then for the maximum, don't worry about that too much. But then for the triggers, we want this low down again. Again, if this is too high, then we have input lag on our triggers. But I find around 0.07 is similar to what it was on Warzone 1, and the default on many Call of Duties. And the reason I like this is because I'm just used to it. If I put it down onto say 0.01, I feel like the second I go near my trigger, I'll start shooting, and that's not going to be useful either. But if you can get used to it, absolutely put these dead zones down as well. Then the next important setting that we get to is around mantling. So we have a few different options here for when you automatically jump up or not. So you can actually turn off jumping over objects when you're on the ground. I don't recommend that, so leave this on. But then for automatic airborne mantle, put this on partial. So this will make you mantle up something, but only if it would prevent a fall. And then lastly, put your automatic ground mantle on off. You absolutely don't want to start jumping over things when you're running through the streets. Next thing you know, you're trying to get cover behind something to take a shot at someone, and you stood on top of a car. These couple of settings aren't too important, but then parachute auto deploy, turn this off. Similar to Warzone 1, by turning this off, it allows us to pull our chute closer to the floor manually. Whereas when it's on auto deploy, it actually pulls up quite high from the ground. Sprinting door bash, put this on. If someone's camping in a building, you absolutely want to make an entrance. And actually, that's the final important setting really. The rest of them are either great on default, or they're quite subjective and not too important. So I hope this video has helped you out. If you want to get the upper hand even more on Warzone 2, make sure to check out one of these videos.